And we're live. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's fabulous to be here. We were just saying that the sun has just come out, especially for the Renny Show. So we're very impressed with the sunshine. You're very welcome. We're very glad. If you're listening with us live, that is fabulous. And if you've got any comments, please type them in so that we can address them as we go along. If you're listening on replay, that would be fabulous. Let us know that you're listening on watching on replay. And of course, if you're catching this as our podcast on any of the podcast platforms, then we would love your feedback to let us know what you think, what you'd like more of. Tell us what you'd like.
Fantastic. Well, a big hello to Jenny and a big hello to David. Thank you so much for joining us today. For those of you that don't know David, master of many talents, I think is how I would describe David. So respected veteran of sales, marketing and business development, writer, broadcaster, public speaker, business strategist. There's not a lot that David doesn't know when it comes to that sphere. However, the reason we've invited David on the podcast today is to talk about Thelkhum, which I won't say too much because we're going to get David to elaborate on that. But it's a bit of a passion project, I would describe it as. That how it comes across, David. So we're looking forward to digging into that a little bit further because it's all about well-being. And anyone that listens to us regularly will know that well-being, personal development, it's very much what we're all about. So this is going to be a great episode. So grab your brew, take the dog for the walk, whatever you're going to do, and settle in and listen because it's going to be a great one. So Jenny, over to you for the first question.
I love it when I get to ask the first question. So David, we're going to start as we mean to go on. So Thelkhum, as Rachel said, a passion project of yours, which is all about the ingredients for a great life and is actually an acronym. So can you tell us what Thelkhum stands for and why it's important to you?
If I may, I might just explain why it's important to me and how it came about, and then I'll go through what Thelkhum means. Yep. So I think the first thing to say is that as a passionate self-developer, someone that probably had a challenging start to my life as a child, figured out that if I were going to change anything, I'd probably need to do that myself. So I started consuming, at the time, tapes. People remember the days of tapes. I'd be driving in my car and I'd be listening to tapes about what you could do with your mindset. A lot of the stuff back then was Anthony Robbins and Jim Rohn. And I became a massive student of all this stuff. And I used to look forward to listening to it in the car. And interestingly, I'm reading a book at the moment from a guy called Robin Sharma. I don't know if people can see that, which is called The Wealth That Money Can't Buy. And one thing I learned in this is that there was such an overwhelming amount of information being put towards me and to other people that read on this subject. This book, for example, is probably the best book I've read so far, and that's going some because I've read a lot. There is a book, however, and the book is, unless you're fortunate enough to have a telephotographic memory, a lot of the things that you read in books like that don't stay with you. They don't resonate with you. And that's, of course, why people created acronyms. And we all have heard of acronyms like the SMART acronym in business, to do with targets, specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and to a time frame. I use one in marketing called CREAM, Challenge, Remedy, Evidence, Action, Motivation, which shows people how to produce, let's say, a proposal. And I thought, I'm learning all this stuff about happiness, wellness, personal development from lots of people. But there's so much of it, it's difficult to remember. So when I started to think about how I could remember all the best things that I'd learned, I was sat on holiday one day and I wrote this acronym out, so Thelkhum. So T stands for what I believe is the most important ingredient in life, which is time. Because if you don't have time, you are essentially not here. And of course, time is our most precious asset. None of us know how much time we're going to be blessed to be given on this planet. We just don't. And yet sometimes we're guilty of not using that time wisely, of wasting that time. Time is something that when we give it, we can never get it back. Unlike money and possessions, we can often earn money that we've lost, but we can never earn back the time that we've lost. So I believe that T for time is one of the most important ingredients in life. And then the H is for health, because if you are blessed with time, but you don't have your health and you don't have vitality, you don't have energy, and you've got other significant health related challenges, and that could include anxiety and depression. If you're missing good health, then your life cannot be optimized for ultimate happiness. So the H is for health. I believe time and health in that order are the most important ingredients. And then we've got E for empathy. So this is obviously a value. And I believe that all the wars that we're seeing in the world now, and all the conflict and the toxicity that we're seeing in the world, all the people that sometimes battle on social media, if they were able to demonstrate more empathy and try to look at the world from the other way around, try to walk in the other lady's or the man's shoes, I think empathy is one of the most beautiful attitudes and qualities in a human being. So I encourage people to be more empathetic. The L is for love. And of course, we all know that there are different types of love. There is the intimate love. There's the love for our children and our friends and family. There's the outpouring of love in all sorts of different ways. And the L is in Thelkhum, because I believe we should demonstrate loving characteristics, loving attitudes and behaviors every day. K is for kindness. No surprise that you will get kindness. Kindness for me, if there is one quality that I love most about people, it's kindness. In fact, I when I got married, my children were at my wedding. We actually got married after we'd had the children. And in my speech, I was saying that the one thing that I hope for my children more than anything else is that they grow up to be kind. Nothing else matters, because I think that kind people are surrounded by friends. They're popular, and everyone likes a kind person. H is for humility. And again, it's a quality I particularly like in people who have got sometimes an amazing talent, but they are humble about it. They're not the first to shout their talent from the rooftops. So humility. And U is for understanding or knowledge acquisition. You know, knowledge, people say knowledge is power. I really do believe that knowledge is power. Knowledge allows you to overcome a challenge, to navigate your way through a happy personal life, through business. And finally, the M is for making memories. And what's interesting about that was I was sadly at the funeral of my mum's brother just last week, and paying particular attention to what the celebrant was saying about his life. And everything she was saying was about memories, literally about the memories that the family had. So in the end, all that matters for any of us is memories. So I designed Thelkhum so that people can actually think about what are the most important ingredients in life. Now, I'm not saying what my ingredients are, that they are the ingredients that everyone should take on board and adopt, but I believe that they are the ones that would rank highly on the list of most people if they really sat and thought about it.
Yeah, and you know what? I think it would have to be a great starting point for anyone, even if it didn't completely wholeheartedly resonate for them. It's got to be a good place to start. I can see you nodding, Jenny.
I can't. Yes. It's funny if we'd had a 3-hour show or a 2-hour show, it would have been brilliant to see what people would have come up with if you asked them to think of their own words for those. And actually, I think I would have put exactly those words in. I think they absolutely. You've nailed it, David. Nailed it.
Thank you. Thank you. And the passion side of it, yes, it is a passion project. There is a website and there are podcasts. And my intention is to develop Thelkhum into something that serves the world and helps people. One of the things I love about Robin Sharma's work is, yes, he's a very successful author, and part of that he's financially successful. But he literally exists. His purpose is to serve. His purpose is to share. And he does that in an amazing way. So I want to, alongside my normal professional work as a business developer and a strategist, my real passion is around the human story, happiness, and the acquisition of happiness, and how that's different for all of us. And the challenges that people are having in the world, the levels of anxiety and depression make me feel really sad, and like I'd like to do something to help people deal with those challenges.
Oh, I love that. Fantastic. Resonates very much for both of us.
Yes, we're all of a quiver here.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we'll move on to the second question then. So, David, what is inspiring you most this year?
I would say it's the point that I'm at in my life, age-wise, 57, and I'm sure we all know, anybody listening to this either live or on replay that is over 50. It starts to become apparent to you, sadly, that some of the friends that you went to school with fall poorly and pass away, and aunts and uncles start to diminish, and you become more aware of the passing of time. And so for me now, it's doing what I love professionally, but my real passion is moving more towards the Thelkhum type work, where there's a huge satisfaction in knowing I've helped someone. I do work on other projects. For example, I work on a project that helps people who are in recovery from alcohol and drug dependency. So that is something that I actually do professionally. So I have got elements of that. But my real passion is to immerse myself more in things that make me feel good and that can help other people feel good. Does that answer your question, Rachel?
Yeah, definitely. I think when you talk about those things, it's clear that that's what inspires you, and I think there is a certain wisdom that does come with age. As much as we'd like to think when we're in our 20s that we know everything, well, we really don't. I think living life really does give us some wisdom, and when you get to a point in life when you really truly understand what inspires you and how you can bring that into your life and share it with the world and make a difference, that's exactly why we wanted to bring you on the show, David, because it's so clear that you want to make a difference to the world.
The power in words, Rachel. I mean, you and I have talked about this in a different environment, a different audience, with a different objective in mind. But the power of words, literally, the way the words that people can weave together to speak and share in a book, on a social media post, often something comes along, and I'm sure you've both had this experience. You see a meme, or you see a short video, or you see a quote that someone has made, and you think, wow, it really does resonate. And so I'm from the farming school of putting great sentences together, wanting to read things that other people have written that just resonate, that trigger that little thought process, that little electric spark that comes in all of our minds, and we hear something and we think, wow, that's really made me think. And communication, the written word, the spoken word, allows us all to share and learn and develop.
Absolutely, and that's precisely why we're here, isn't it? And why we do the Renny Show, Jenny.
It is. And both Rachel and I love words. I loved English when I was at school. When people ask me about leaders who've inspired me over my life, my English teacher at school was one of those. And I did a post about it just recently on LinkedIn, and one of my school friends saw it, printed it out, put it in a card because she knows my English teacher, and she gave it to her and said, I thought you'd like to know that 50 years later, this is the impact that you're still having on one of your pupils who is actually using what you taught her to make a difference in her world. And she and her husband were really, really touched. And I think that's the power of words, is that the impact that we have on other people. So my third question is, I think Rachel would describe it as a Jenny classic. So brace yourself, David.
I'm waiting with bated breath.
What's your biggest itch?
Wow, this is profound, interestingly. And this is a big itch, and it's an itch that's not going to be easy to scratch, because my biggest itch is to live an off-grid life where I am surrounded by nature. My vision, it's vivid, it's so clear in my mind, is to live in a wooden lodge type structure on the edge of some woodland, looking down over a freshwater lake, so that I can wake up every morning, whatever the season, and if I want, I can go and take a cold plunge or a swim in the warm freshwater lake, and we can maybe catch some trout and fish from time to time, and I can hear the breeze blowing through the trees and the bird song, and our dog can run freely and not have to be, put on a lead when he's taken on a walk because it's unsafe with the roads and so on. So that element, definitely. And because of my thirst for variety, that wouldn't suit me all the time. I have to confess, ladies. So I would also like to convert a van, but I would like to convert a van that's comfortable so that you don't feel like you are actually compromising comfort. So a van with a nice king size bed, with a kitchen, a toilet, somewhere for me to do my work, somewhere for me to relax, the ability to pull an awning out and sit outside and choose my sunset, wherever that might be, every single night. My focus would be finding the best sunsets. That's my biggest itch, because I could do a lot of the work that I do now from anywhere. The challenge is my youngest children are 11 and 13. And so unless we chose to homeschool them, that wouldn't be easy.
Yeah. Wow.
But what an itch. What an itch.
Yeah, I was right with you when you were describing it. I can see it.
Yeah.
It's so profound, ladies, that I recorded a podcast about this, a Thelkhum podcast, is about possessions. I guess the subject of minimalism is linked to it. But of course, if you think about living in a van or living in a small wooden lodge, by the way, when I talk about wooden lodge, I'm not talking about a huge palatial thing. I'm talking about something that's, space conscious, that's quite small. And so to live quite small, that means that you need to declutter and really focus on the items in your life that you really need, not the items that you necessarily want, but that you really need, with a small scattering of items that you want. And I've even made a list of what those items would be. So that's how profound this itch is. I've made a list of what could I not cope without in my day-to-day life and in my professional life. And of course, things come along in that list. But it's a pretty profound itch, and I don't mind admitting I think about it a lot every day.
I think that demonstrates for me that it's a meaningful itch, which is what we what we're after, is that this is not a passing itch of that you have and it disappears. This is a real deeper, meaningful itch that matters.
Yeah, and just to sort of qualify why that itch exists, and I'm sure you both have got your own experience of this, but the two things that I love doing the most, number one is being on a beach at sunset, somewhere warm, ideally.
Yeah.
I just love watching the sun go down, and everything about the mood that creates, the sounds of the sea lapping on the shore, and sometimes the way the salt kind of creates mist in the air. I just think that's actually absolutely magical. And so sunsets are one of my big passions. And then walking in the forest is the other, or walking in the woods, as we'd say here in the UK. And last night, me and my wife did it, and we took the dog with us. And the bird song, the sun was setting, the birds were singing loudly. And then we got a phone call from one of the kids because we're having a bit of a disagreement. So that spoiled our moment. That's because this is real life, ladies, isn't it? This is real life.
Absolutely.
But yeah, sunsets and walking in the wood, I think there is something magical about the impact that both of those things have on a human being.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right with you on that. Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's now time for your question for us, David.
Yeah. Should we be scared?
No, I guess it's probably a fairly deep question, but I think it's in keeping with what we've discussed so far. And I'm not going to set you the challenge of asking you for too many elements, but if I were to push you both on which three human behaviors could have the greatest and most positive impact on the world, what would those 3 human behaviors be?
Ooh. From your Thelkhum list or any?
It could be from the Thelkhum list if you want, or anything that you believe that if people in the world could all demonstrate 3 behaviors, what would they be to create the most positive impact for everyone?
Do you want to go first, Rachel, or do you want me to go first?
You go for it, Jenny.
Rachel likes time to think, and I think on my toes. So I think the first one for me is compassion. And I think compassion kind of, for me, encapsulates the humility, understanding, and empathy in one.
Yeah.
So that's a deep understanding of other people's perspectives and where they're coming from, even if I'm starting from mine, and the ability to not judge, but to be curious about what that means for them and why. So I think, and that empathy, that kind of understanding that we're all human, that we're all human, whatever our experiences are and wherever we come from. So I think compassion is my first one. My second is, as you said, kindness, because it comes from love, doesn't it? Kindness, and it's a manifestation of the love that we feel for other people. And one of the things that I experienced this week, I have a 2-year-old, about to be 2-year-old grandson who lives in America, so I don't get to see him as often as I would like. And my daughter-in-law sent me a message that she had from his teacher at daycare to say that he has a friend who has some additional needs and needs physiotherapy to kind of help him move. And they were doing some dancing. And Archie knows that in order to dance with his friend, he has to be on his left side and support him. And so he knows that, like an instinctive knowing kindness. And so when they are dancing together, he always takes that side and he supports him. And every now and then his friend falls over. And so Archie helps him up and they start the whole thing again. And his teacher said, it is an absolute joy to watch this kindness in action from very small humans who are demonstrating. Nobody's told them. Nobody has articulated what should happen, what's the right thing to do. They instinctively know that's how they get the best out of each of them. And I have to confess that I sobbed when I read the message, because it was that thing about actually what happens in life that we lose that somewhere along the way. So compassion, kindness. And I think the other one for me is passion, fun, is that ability to find, maybe it's actually joy. Can I check? So it's joy. So it's finding the joy in the everyday, whether it's big things or little things, the ability to laugh, to wonder, to be amazed about the situations that we find ourselves in. So those would be my 3: joy, compassion, and kindness.
All beautiful. And just to pick up before Rachel answers on a couple of things, there was a book from a well-known author called Deepak Chopra. I think it's called The 7 Spiritual Laws of Happiness.
Is. Yeah.
And in it, he talks about not judging. And I remember reading that book, and it's not a book that takes a long time to read. You could read it in probably 2.5, 3 hours. And it talks about not judging, how we shouldn't judge. And that can be so challenging for us, can't it? Not to judge, because we're probably all doing it all the time, but to be less judgmental or less scathingly judgmental. So I love that about what you said, and kindness and seeing kindness in children. I don't think there's anything more beautiful, is there? Seeing kindness in children, one child demonstrating kindness towards another. So thank you for sharing those. Rachel,
love it.
same question to you.
Yeah, okay. I mean, well, everything you said there, Jenny, very much resonated. The thing I'm going to start with that's slightly different to that, there are two words that have come to mind that are both quite interlinked for me. And the first is hope. And when I say hope, I think people can really misunderstand hope. It can be a kind of empty, oh, I hope it's going to be okay. I hope it's going to turn out all right. You know, it's in the lap of the gods now. I can't do anything about it. I hope it'll be all right. And that's not what I mean. It's a far deeper thing than that. It's that innate knowledge, that trust, which is the other word that came to mind, that trust that that things really will turn out okay, and that people really do have the ability to make the world a better place, to be who they want to be. You know, I kind of liken it. I always think of Star Wars: A New Hope. It's that kind of hope. It's that really deep-seated hope that good can win over evil, kind of, you know. And whilst I don't necessarily believe that it's as simple as black and white as that, but yeah, hope. That's a really big one for me, and the way that sort of trust comes in with it as well. And what that then makes me think of in terms of trust, I almost want to have that as a separate one as well, because I think the world needs more trust. We need more trust in ourselves, trust in our ability to do the things that are going to make us happy, do the things that can make a better world. And I think there is a lot of distrust or mistrust in a lot of the things that go on in the world. You know, we've already mentioned things like wars and you know, the awful things that go on in the world. So, you know, again, so I don't mean blind trust in just trusting everything, whether you're talking about politics or whatever else. But if there was more trust across the world, then I believe we'd be in a better position. And then I think the third, that's quite a tough one to pick, because I'd probably want more than three if I was being completely honest.
Yeah.
But I think I'd have to go with love as the third one. I just think love underpins everything. It's so important, whether that's love for ourselves, whether that's love for our family, love for our community, love for our country, love for the work that we do, love for the organizations we're a part of, you know, the things that we belong to, that, you know, that we have all these shared values with other people. And I think when you're involved with things where there are so many shared values, love just always underpins that. So that would be my third, I think.
I love those, Rachel. Hope, for me, when I hear the word hope, I think of an optimist. Yeah. And in my work, I talk about there being broadly three mindsets. I realize there are many layers to a personality, but at a high level, I believe that there are optimists, pessimists, and realists. And I believe that on that scale, we all can fluctuate between sometimes. I mean, sometimes I feel, you know, pessimistic about certain things. But what I love about the word hope for me is attached to optimism. Yeah. And the second thing that you mentioned, which was trust, was interesting. There's a Harvard happiness study, which if people don't know about, they should Google it. It's fascinating. It's the world's longest study on the subject of human happiness. Yeah. And it concludes, amongst many other learnings, that relationships, having good, varied relationships around us, is the biggest contributor to happiness. And of course, trust is a key part of a strong relationship. If there is no trust in a personal relationship, in an intimate relationship, in a friendship, amongst family, then relationships become strained. So I absolutely trust. I totally agree with you. It's such an important quality and a behavior. And we're totally agreed on love. If we could all give out love some days. I mean, some people that know me really well, it takes them a while to realize that this is genuine. But anyone who's been for a coffee with me or traveled on an airplane or a train or had a meal in a restaurant will notice that I always ask the name of the person that's serving us. And I always take some time to chat pleasantries and thank them every single time they serve, to thank them. And, you know, that is a form of love for me. I think if we, in every moment of our lives, when we interact with someone, another human being, we can show some love in the way that we conduct ourselves. So thank you for those ladies. You know, it's a really good thought, isn't it, to think about, you know, what behaviors that we could all demonstrate and encourage people to demonstrate to make a better world.
Absolutely, and thank you for encouraging us to do that, because I think it's been wonderful to talk about it, and hopefully everyone that's listening will, you know, there's got to have been something in there that will resonate for them, you know, hopefully lots, but yeah, lots of great things to think about there.
And if we would love to, if you can think of you'd like to share your three behaviours with us in the comments or at a later date, we would love to know what they are. Because it's such a fascinating discussion. I know we could probably spend the whole afternoon talking about this and much more. So David, thank you so much for that question. It was a really great question.
You're welcome.
It was a doozy.
It was one of my favourites so far. So our next Renny Show is on the 22nd of May, and that's a Rachel and Jenny in conversation with each other. We don't have a guest on that because on the 5th of June we have the magnificent, I don't use that word lightly, magnificent Christopher Allen from Montrock coming to talk to us. He is a fabulously inspiring, brilliant human being who is also making great changes in the world. So we will be sharing some more juicy details about Chris in the coming weeks. But he will be definitely somebody who you will not want to miss, as David has also been. I love doing that. I just have to share this. I just love doing this show. We get to talk to the most amazing people and have the most fabulous conversations. So it is a deep joy to be part of the Renny Show. So thank you.
Oh, thank you, Jenny, and thank you, David. It really has been an absolute pleasure having you with us. It's a shame we limit the show to just those 3 questions and then one for us, because I feel we could have talked for a lot longer. But, you know, sincere thank you for giving up, you know, that one thing that's the most important to you in terms of Thelkhum and in terms of life, and that's giving us your time. So thank you.
You're more than welcome. I thoroughly enjoyed it. The most positive half an hour of the day, without question.
Excellent. Well, before we close, David, can you just tell anyone who's listening where they can get in touch with you, where they can link with you, and how they can get involved with Thelkhum?
I guess 4 key ways. So people can hit me up on Facebook, and that's easy to do. In terms of finding out about Thelkhum, there is a website, which is thelkhum.com, THELKHUM, of course, thelkhum.com. And what I would probably encourage people to do the most is look up the podcast for Thelkhum, which you'll find on all main podcast engines. There are about 16 episodes, and they are on pretty profound subjects. So if people have watched this and thought, wow, what those guys have spoken about today has really resonated with me, then the Thelkhum podcast is worth a listen. And I'm also very active, although I don't post usually, I'm very active on LinkedIn. I go on there every day. So if people want to find out a bit more about me and my life, then they can contact me through either Facebook or through LinkedIn. And finally, the email address is david@thelkhum.com. So anybody who wants to email me, david@thelkhum.com.
Fantastic. And we will put all of that in the show notes as well to make it really super easy for everyone to find you. So it's time to say goodbye. Thank you so much for being here, David. Thank you, as always, Jenny, for your company. And we will see you all very soon. Ta-ta for now.
Thank you, guys.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. See you next time. Until next